reforms. We must understand what we mean by reform. This has become a very big catchword. What kind of reforms? Reforms in policy. I think the most important reforms are reforms in governance. And when I say this, it's not just one government. It's reforms of governance, both at the center and at the state levels. We must recognize that if you see the functioning of our municipalities and municipal corporations, we need these reforms there. We need reforms here. India started its reforms 15 years after China. And we were 15 or 17 years behind China when we started it. And I remember in 1991, when India launched its reforms, you had the big Bombay Club, some of you remember that, who opposed these reforms. And when Dr. Manmohan Singh, as finance minister, launched this, there was a lot of skepticism in this in our own party. We had stalwarts saying that, which way are we somersaulting from this socialistic pattern of society? And we didn't have any model to copy. We didn't have the Central or the South American models. We didn't have the East Asian models. So we had to have a very India-specific. And that's what we chose, India-specific. And the success story of these reforms is that we had no bubble which burst. The success story is that several governments, there's been 7 governments and 5 prime ministers since then. But all of them followed one course. So there's been a consistency in those reforms. So reforms have to be calibered. The Indian reform story was calibered reforms. And that's how we are doing it. If we had, I remember hearing this in the World Economic Forum in Davos for many years. I used to go there and I used to be told that you must follow, you must bring in reform in your banking sector. You liberalize your banking sector. And I remember in 2009 when I went back, I had to tell those same set of bankers that look where you are and look where we are. You talked of reforms, and in your country, your government is giving money to banks, and in our country, banks are giving money to our government. That's the big difference. That is the story of India's prudential norms, India's strength of the banking sector. Of course, there'll be challenges, new things. The world is not the same what it was. India is not the same what it was. And every 1 or 2 years, things changes. Who thought that 2008 would happen? Who thought that in the last 1 or 2 years, you would have such strong liquidity injections in the United States, and suddenly they'll pull back? What are the consequences of pulling back on these liquidity injections by the United States? Nobody's to tell them anything. And we are supposed to adopt and adapt overnight. That is where our challenge is, and that's where the banking sector has this great challenge, to foresee this and then be able to adopt and adapt it. Now, what are we seeing in India? We are seeing a completely different paradigm. We are seeing growing disposable incomes in rural India. Not incomes. Incomes you get on every screen. But what you don't see on screens is the growing disposable incomes. A 5 lakh rupee income in Delhi per year means nothing. But a 5 lakh rupee income in my district means one SUV. The banks are ready to finance it. Banks are coming up with innovative instrument and financial services now for the rural sector. This is what's happening in the growing disposable incomes in rural India. I had told one of the call center people that you have these call centers, BPOs in Bangalore and in Pune, and you pay them 22,000 rupees. Come to my district and you pay them 5,000 rupees. And they said, if we come there, will we get people? I said, that's where the raw material is. The people you hire in Bangalore or in Pune are not necessarily from there. They go from my district to Pune and Bangalore, and you pay them 22,000 rupees. And that's what happened. Today, I got 3 call centers, big call centers working in my district. This is a paradigm shift which is taking place. And the banking system will have to adapt itself. I remember nobody would talk of banks. Today, the demand for ATMs in the most backward districts is the highest. Infrastructure is going to be another challenge. I know banks have had great problems in some of the infrastructure projects. There is a learning curve. And whatever anybody may say, it's very simple to say that, oh, government should do this and government should do that. In hindsight, everybody is very smart. I remember when I was transport minister, they said, how can you have these toll roads. Nobody's going to pay for these roads. We devised the BOT system. We said the PPP model. Of course, there cannot be a perfect PPP model. If you have a perfect PPP model, somebody will shout in Parliament that it is slanted towards the concessionaire. And if you have an imperfect model, the banks are going to have on their books problems, serious problems. NPAs are only because of stalled projects, not because of bad projects. That's the big difference. And we are now addressing these issues of stalled projects. So I think this is also a short-term challenge. But really, the Indian banking sector has shown, not to the people of India, but to the world, its own standards. Many countries are looking at India. This because we have the largest intellectual abilities on this planet. We not only have the largest intellectual abilities on this planet, we have an aspirational society, the largest aspirational society on this planet, being a young demographic profile. And with intellectual abilities, with an aspirational society, I think this mood of pessimism, this mood of gloom, it became again a psyche that whatever is not boom is gloom. When I left Parliament, we were discussing and we're going to pass the manual scavenger bill. We passed the street vendors bill. It's as important as insurance. And if some of the political parties had agreed, we would have also passed the insurance bill. Consensus. You see, then there's talk of strong leadership. It's better to have a good leadership than a divided leadership. Thank you very much.